audition.
Yeah, you know, there is a funny story about that part. I had auditioned, I don't know if you know, Robert Rodriguez was supposed to direct the film originally, right? And so I auditioned for him. And after having seen some of his films, I expected a sort of a wild sort of. No, he was very, very quiet. He was sort of in the corner, just sort of like this very, very. And I remember doing my audition. All of a sudden, he sort of perked up a little, and I thought, oh, you know, something might happen. And then my agent called and said they're very interested in you for this part, and I was going off to do a play. And he says the timing works perfectly. They don't start for 3 months, but go do your play, and hopefully it'll work out. Well, it all fell apart.
Oh.
It all completely, you know, as happens. This was not unusual. This happens all the time. And then 6 months later, I hear from a stuntman friend who said, you know, they're casting the Zorro again. So, and I went out again for the same role.
Really?
And yes, and I ended up getting it. So I guess it was fated. And for me, it was so important because it was the first big film. I'd done other films, independent films, a lot of TV, because I didn't arrive in LA until I was almost 40. I was working in the theater for about 15 years after school, and a wonderful experience because I'm a character man. So it wasn't like I needed to be in LA. I was growing into my work. I wasn't at the right age. Consequently, when I came down, I did the usual stuff, you know, smaller things, television, plays, independent films, and finally this one came along. But if I had to say what film sort of prompted this, there was a film called, I can't imagine you know this film, called Lone Star. Lone Star is a John Sayles film. John Sayles is an American filmmaker, writer, who used to do a lot of films, a film a year about various things in America, various social problems or various areas. Wonderful filmmaker for actors. You know, he's not about entertainment. It's just about. And so I had done that film previous, and when I went into my audition, Martin said to me, I know you. To find out he had seen Lone Star. And he used to be, like all directors, an independent film director, a sort of guerrilla filmmaking, picking it up, trying to do what you can. And so he was very enamored of John Sayles. And I thought that helped me get the work. Without question, that's the favorite. It was one of the most beautiful, beautiful places. The other memory I have is it was exceptionally, exceptionally hot. I mean, it was hot. You know? So there's that memory too. But during lunch, I remember everyone just sort of like taking a siesta, just like, yeah, it was so hot. But it was so beautiful. It was off of Guaymas. Was the area. It was off the coast of Mexico. Quite beautiful. In the second Zorro, they didn't go to the beach. It was CGI.
CGI, yeah.
But in the first one, we spent a lot of time. Well, I knew she had something. You never know. You never know. But I was so happy for her, and I mean, her life and her career just went like that. And the thing I remember, she was really sort of wonderful. When I did the first one, when I came back for the second one, I arrived, they had been shooting, and I walked in to grab some lunch, like everyone. And she saw me across the room and just sort of waved and came over and sat. So it was a wonderful sort of thing to say, yeah, my career has changed, but I haven't, you know, so. She was lovely, and you know, probably one of the most beautiful women. You know, just incredibly beautiful.
Yeah. In the big screen.
And talented. You know, talented. She dances. She does everything. Sings. She and acts. In English, we say she's a triple threat. Well, you know, Antonio, I did another film with him afterwards as well that he directed. Crazy in Alabama. but Anthony Hopkins is very, very interesting because this is the story of an actor, right? When I was in school, I went to school in Philadelphia, and I would go through New York often. So I went to see a play called Equus, which is quite a wonderful play. And at the time, if you were a student, you could buy a ticket for $5 and sit on stage, you know, because it had a Greek theater sort of feeling to it, but it was Broadway.
Mm.
And I did, and it was a spectacular performance by Anthony Hopkins. Spectacular. And it was everything you dreamed of as a young actor. So after the show, I had to wait for a train to get back home. And I was waiting, having a cup of coffee. Who walks in a half hour later? Anthony Hopkins. So I'm on my way out to catch the train, and I'm paying. And ordinarily, I'm a little shy. I don't engage with actors that way. I try to leave them alone. And I said, "Hey, I just saw your show. I'm a young actor, and I just thought it was terrific. And thank you very much." And I just left. And they were, wait. And I turned around, and he spoke to me for about 5 minutes. Oh, where do you study? What are you studying? How are you doing? Well, the point is, 20 years later, you're doing a big movie with him.
Yeah.
And it was so wonderful of how those things, and of course Antonio is Antonio, and he was terrific, and what a warm, wonderful, alive person. Stuart, it was great. We got to hang out together, and Stuart was an RSC guy, Real Shakespeare guy, so we had a lot in common about the theater. So we would speak, and my wife came down, and Stuart is a big reader, and my wife is a big reader, so we'd get these knocks on our door. Do you have any books? I'm out of books. No, so there's wonderful, wonderful memories tied to those years. Between Antonio and Catherine, it's just exquisite. We shot that at night, so we were shooting. We were arriving about 6 p.m. and shooting till 6 a.m.
Oh.
So it was a night thing, and that when you're shooting nights, everyone's a little sort of off, and it was really sort of special. But the other scene that sticks with me, and was the opening scene.
Yeah,
I have never seen a crowd scene that well done. There's always someone in a crowd scene that you can say, "Oh, they're laughing," or they're not in it. They're looking at the camera. That crowd scene, and I watched Martin get that crowd just revved up. It was really remarkable how that turned out. My connection with Martin, we did the audition, and it's interesting because there were 12 actors they already saw hundreds of actors, but there were 12 actors in the room, probably 6 of which I knew. In other words, this was the ultimate call, the final callback. And 6 of which I knew could do the job just like me. So, it wasn't, and you walk in, and part of it is luck, part of it, there's so many things with casting. I can tell you a funny story about casting if you want. So, and we did it. I did it. It went reasonably well. And he gave me a note to do something else with it. Now, my instinct was that was not right for the character. But as an actor, you do it because what the director is trying to find out is, can you work together? It doesn't make a difference. He never asked me to do that again or anything. But it was just, can we work together is and you do it. Absolutely. Because you're almost saying, okay, I can do the job, they can do the job, but we're going to have fun together doing this job. It's going to be an adventure together. And I felt that strongly with Martin. And obviously, if you're a character man, sometimes a young actor feels like, oh, the director isn't talking to me. I must be doing something wrong. They don't. No. They have so many things to worry about. That it means you're right on track.
Mm.
If they don't say anything to you, you're doing a good job because they will let you know if you're not.
Yeah.
And so my connection with Martin was strong.
it's a masterpiece, like we say in French. It's a chef-d'œuvre, the Mask of Zorro, because you have a lot of beautiful technicians. Phil Maheu in the DP.
Incredible.
Graciela Mathon.
Yes. Now,
And,
Graciela, I've done 3 films, probably 3 or 4 films with her. She's the best, the best. Yeah.
Yeah. And Cecilia Montiel for the
Yes.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it's a masterpiece. Even again, right now, I have the feeling you don't have this kind of cinema right now. I don't know if you share this feeling or.
Not no, not quite in this vein. In the adventure vein. In the
Epic.
Yeah, in the epic sort of vein. No, you're right. But it'll come back.
Yeah.
Definitely. Oh yeah. Yeah. Bob Anderson.
Bob Anderson.
Yeah. He was great. Yeah, I didn't have any sword fight, but he was the guy. I mean,
Yeah. Amazing career with Errol Flynn too.
Yeah, he's gone now.
Unfortunately,
Yeah. I remember he and his wife came down. His wife's name was Pearl, and she was a character. So, because you're gone so long that they have to accommodate the families. You can't go away for 6 months. So spouses would, husbands, wives, children would come down once or twice during a shoot. I remember actually Antonio's daughter, Stella, was maybe 6 months old when we were doing that. We were doing the Mask of Zorro. The true story was after I'd done the first Zorro, I worked, I was out, and I had been doing several films in Bulgaria in winter. So it was very cold, and I caught wind that Martin Campbell was doing the sequel, and I wrote him a letter, and basically he said, "Look, Martin, I hope you're well. It's been a while. I've been working a lot in Bulgaria. It's very cold. I'm looking for something warm. If there's anything for me, please let me know." And I don't often do that. But I felt a rapport with Martin, so I wrote him, and I didn't hear anything. And then about a month later, maybe even a little bit longer, a script showed up, and that's how it happened. So probably if I hadn't written that letter, it wouldn't have happened, because out of sight, out of mind. But it was such a glorious sort of experience to revisit Mexico and revisit so many of the people. Designers and Phil, the cinematographer. It was quite wonderful. Ken, I knew Ken before Zorro. We did the Cisco Kid. It was a movie with Cheech Marin and Jimmy Smits, and we shot it in Mexico. And Ken, so I know, and he's a genius. He's a genius, and particularly when I came down for the second movie, he says, "Oh, okay, we have to change something. What should we do?" And he built me this little hairpiece, And he said, "Okay, so this is the brother who went into the church." Yes, okay, he went into the Catholic Church. Okay, we got it.
Yeah.
No, Ken is, and look at the prosthetics he and his whole crew did for Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah.
I mean, they really are remarkable. Yeah, there's so many wonderful people that I think of in that movie. Jose Perez, Willie Marquez. I mean, there's just a bunch of wonderful.
About the Legend of Zorro, you have many scenes with children and in classroom. So for you, it was great to play with children, or sometimes it's difficult because they are just children and they want to play?
Well, no, these are Adrian, who played the boy. He's a professional actor. He's a child, yes, but he's a professional actor. I mean, so there is a little bit of that for the extras, maybe, who had never been on a film set before. But most of the child actors are very savvy. As a matter of fact, you envy them because they have an innocence that they bring. They can lose themselves in the movie, sometimes much easier than an adult can. But I had a wonderful time, and there's an old adage in the theater: never share the stage with children and dogs, because they will steal all the attention. You know, so
Yeah.
I didn't feel that way. We shot that scene. It was like 2 days.
Only?
Because it was very involved, that scene, and very. Of course, you had to be very careful because even though they weren't weapons, you got pointers, and I hit him on his hand several times, and he hit me on mine. But he was like, and I'd say, "Oh, are you okay?" And he was like, "No problem."
Yeah.
When you're working, there's a kind of adrenaline that goes with you. You're so happy and excited to be working that a little bit of pain doesn't get in your way. I think one of the most sort of exciting and fun scenes I've ever done was the scene with the little boy,
Definitely.
with the Zorro Jr., as it were.
Yeah.
Adrian, he's a real trooper. God, at this point he must be. I saw him in a film not that long ago. He was really wonderful. But anyway, the scene where the Jesuit priest is trying to teach the class, and they end up in a sword fight. And in English we say the apple doesn't fall far from the tree, because all of a sudden he does the same acrobatics, and it's quite.
Yeah.
It's a glorious scene. It really, really is, and I really enjoyed it. And you're right. I play two characters, but if you recall back then, sons of a nobleman, one would get all the land, and the other would go into the church, and a third would go into the military.
Yeah.
So I justified it as if I were two brothers.
Yeah, definitely.
That was my justification. It's funny you asked that. After we shot the scene in the classroom, the next day when I ran into Martin, I forget, next day, the day after, she says, "You have to go to the editing room and see that scene. You tell the editor blank, blank, blank that I told you that you must see that scene." So I did. He was so happy with it. And of course, that made me very happy initially. And then I saw the scene and I thought, oh, that's terrific. Terrific. It's a really wonderful spirit, and there's a wonderful turn because this character is so strict and stuffy at the beginning, and by the end of the movie, when he's with the boys in the desert, he's very protective.
Yeah.
And then when the train comes, and it's a really wonderful arc in the film. Yeah, every so often, and I'll come across it on cable or on television or somewhere, and then I'll stop and reminisce. So
yeah. And your feeling is nostalgia, or you're just happy to be a part of this movie?
Both. It's always nostalgia, but also joy. It's just the great thing. I have done a fair amount, as I said, of theater. Theater is sculpture and ice. You sculpture and then it disappears at the end, and you go back the next night and you resculpt. The great thing about film is that it remains. You can enter that moment again, and it's really interesting how your mental state changes what is fixed on screen. All of a sudden, you see something new. All of a sudden, you get a memory that comes back. It's quite wonderful. It's the joy of filmmaking in that way. You have a record of it in a kind of way. Acting, we have records of paintings from the 15th, 16th, 17th, 18th century. We have no records of actors. Their actual performance. We have written records, but not. No. So film is history.
So if I cross the finger, if there is a third Zorro, do you think you'll have a third part?
If Martin were directing it, perhaps. Yeah. But I mean, I'd love to. It just depends, Sometimes they start from scratch, That's what was so remarkable about the original. When the first director was working on it, then Martin created a whole new thing. Is that generally they wipe the slate clean. You don't. If he came all the way and the casting was a casting person, they find all new actors. They might keep the lead, but they find all new actors. And so it was remarkable that it was fated. It was fated that I should be in Zorro. And I just love doing it because it's also, there's horseback and there's the clothes are so elegant and the locations. We're a generation not even away from everything being green screen, CGI, and everything will take place on a sound stage. Yeah. What a loss that will be in many ways, I think. Hopefully there will be Zorros in the future, whether we're involved or not. It's just a great story, It's just a great story about the righting of wrong and justice finally coming to the people. So
yeah, so it's a beautiful words to close our exchange. So merci beaucoup. Thank you very much, Tony.